My friends, the age of mass abundance of products and services might be upon us, and this is especially true if you believe in increased innovation in artificial intelligence and automation. Now, today we have some breaking news coming from a tech analyst, Ming-Chi Kuo, in regards to Apple getting into the humanoid robot market. And this really doesn't come as a surprise at all to me, as Apple is the largest company on Earth and with some very, very deep pockets. And with Apple being such a big company and their product lineup starting to plateau a bit, as we've seen with iPhone, laptop, and software sales recently, they need to get into some big markets to start growing their market share from consumers once again. So this really doesn't come as a surprise. And recently, when it comes to humanoid robots, I think companies like Tesla and Amazon and now Apple here are really starting to invest billions of dollars in this segment. But let's look here to see what Ming-Chi Kuo has to say. Apple's exploring both humanoid and non-humanoid robots for its future smart home ecosystem, and these products are still in the early proof of concept stage internally. While the industry debates the merits of humanoid versus non-humanoid design, supply chain checks indicate Apple cares more about how users build perception with robots than their physical appearance. The timeline from POC to formal kickoff varies. Given current progress and typical development cycles, Apple's robot mass production likely won't start until 2028 or later. And I really couldn't agree with this more, as right now we don't know where those factories are or the supply chain is for Apple to start building out these robots. Plus, I think that there is still a lot of work to be done in terms of building out the all the design characteristics of these robots as well. But looking at this from a high level, I think it's really smart for Apple and other companies, even like Tesla, to get into this market. When it comes to integrating our lives with robots, I think that there is a lot of value and a heck of a lot of money to be made here as well. If we think about our daily lives, freeing up time from our chores, washing dishes, folding clothes, cooking, and all that sort of stuff, I think that there is a lot of money that people would pay to free up that extra time and gain more value. And when we start putting together some estimated numbers, if it costs companies like Tesla or Apple, for example, to build out these robots for, let's say, $20,000 or $30,000 a piece, and we're able to buy them for $50,000 or rent them out at 10 or 15 bucks an hour to do the work for us, or even for businesses to hire and pay as labor to replace human employees, the value proposition in the circumstance could be very high. So in a case where a robot could possibly work, let's just say, in comparison, a human can work about 2,000 hours per year. That's about 40 hours. That's about a standard 40-hour work week. If a robot could work more, let's say 3,000 hours per year at a rate of $15 per hour, let's say you're going to rent out that robot, that's $45,000 in revenue a company like Apple could make on their top line. Which, if the robot has a lifespan of, let's say, 5 years until it has to be replaced, that could be an extraordinarily profitable piece of hardware and software for them to sell to the end consumer. So from a point of view from the consumer, this is a great value proposition in terms of freeing up the consumer's time, and also a great proposition for investors and something for their company to build out, whether it be a large company like Tesla or Apple here, or a small startup working in the area of robotics. But what I find interesting here is that Apple's not only looking at humanoid, but they're also looking at non-humanoid designs. And I think that this is really just them thinking outside of the box in a good way, as a robot does not have to have a human characteristic, physically speaking, in order for it to be valuable. So I think that this opens up a new box and something that we should be watching very carefully. Again, because right here, I mean, when it comes to robots entering our lives in general, right, we've only seen it in the movies, right? Star Wars, Star Trek, or whatever the show or movie might be. It's quite interesting to see. So to see this come to light over the next few years will be quite quite interesting. Now, when it comes to the timeline of 2028, I think that this will be extended out later. And I think it's sort of a marketing scheme coming from Apple, as other companies like Tesla even are saying a late 2025 or 2026 when they'll start producing humanoid robots at scale. But I really don't think that the technology is there yet, or ability to get it down to an appropriate cost for it to make sense. I think we're going to be pushing out to later 2029, or if not the early 2030s, for this technology to really start making sense. But nonetheless, what this is going to do here for companies like Apple, it will vastly expand their ability to grow their market capitalization, because I think they're sort of locked in this market size of being a company worth about $3 to $5 trillion for the time being. And I think that the company has about a mid 30 price to earnings ratio. So they really need to start kicking things up in terms of profit to keep shareholders happy here. So what this will do essentially as well, some unintended consequences here. So what Apple might be doing is also hurting the regular human workforce labor market, right? Because if Apple can start making these humans not only to work in our homes to free up our time, they can also make these robots to start taking away human jobs and start reducing the costs that businesses have from humans, to replace them with robot labor instead, which would be make them able to produce a good or service at a much lower cost, right? So that's going to be some of the unintended consequences. But when you can just mint these robots out of a factory in the numbers of millions per year, what this does at the end of the day, yes, it will free up human time, but it will also create mass abundance of products and services. Because right now, how our economy actually works, obviously here, is supply and demand of labor. And businesses have to pay a wage to the human worker that the human worker demands from that business. So things have to meet in the middle for both ends. When a company or business can start minting out these robots off an assembly line at whatever rate that they choose, they can start pushing up the supply of labor essentially to an infinite amount, and match whatever demand that humans have. And I spoke about this on a previous video where humans' needs and wants are essentially unlimited. So what we have here now is that we're starting to realize there's a lot of big companies, multi-trillion-dollar companies, investing in a future of automated technologies, being things like humanoid robots, which is going to make the future look like a very weird place, I would say. Pretty futuristic, but also dystopian in the fact that humans will be able to essentially ask for anything from the robots, from the artificial intelligence, and get it. Because what these robots are going to do, they're going to do absolutely everything in the supply chain, and I really think that's what people don't realize. If we look back at what humans do from a high level, how we produce things at the whole supply chain, right? Humans go ahead and mine things. Humans put together the supply chain. We mine things, we ship it off to the factories, and turn things into final goods that people essentially buy. When we remove every function that humans do in that supply chain, you no longer have to pay people salaries. Businesses no longer have to pay for business insurance, like auto insurance, to pay for the liability of human beings, workers' comp, general liability. There's so many things that go away in terms of business expenses that will be taken away from the cost within the final product that a person buys. So if you're buying a car or anything, a couch, and you look around in your home, the desk that you might be sitting at right now or whatever it might be, if that item used to cost $100 made by human labor, in the future, it might be 1/20th of that cost, right? Maybe $5, and all you're paying for is the human oversight to watch over the robots or whatever it might be. Now, some other unintended consequences of all this, and a risk that I see, is when you remove all the people from the supply chain, you lose those workers, which means you lose the tax base as well. And in our economy, which really lives off of debt, we have high national debt which needs to have interest paid on it for, right? We have to fund Social Security, Medicare, all these different items. And when you have companies here producing robots that don't pay taxes, don't need salaries and things like that, how do we afford to keep paying to fund our national debt and keep it all from bursting at the end of the day. So there's a whole lot of things that are going to come out of this that we can't fully predict or see at the time being, and can only assume different risks and things like that. But at the end of the day, people need to be watching this, as it will certainly impact their lives quite a bit. And things like robot taxes will probably be a true thing in the future, where businesses will have to pass on a tax from the product that they sell and have to pay that to the government or to the people in the form of a universal basic income. Now, I think fortunately or unfortunately, this future isn't coming anytime soon, and we're going to have to wait decades to see it come. But nonetheless, it will be very exciting. But I hope that this really sheds some light onto what the future might look like and the value that Apple is bringing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.